You've probably heard the name Mike Tyson, one of the most feared athletes on the planet. The man knocked out opponents in under a minute. At his peak, nobody could touch him. He earned over $400 million in his career. $400 million. And yet, by 2003, he was sitting on $23 million of debt. Not just empty pockets. Debt. So, how does someone go from $400 million to owing money? And why does your neighbor who drives a 10-year-old Honda and works a government job somehow retire more comfortably than the guy who made six figures for 20 years straight? That question right there is exactly what we're digging into today. I recently finished reading The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and honestly, it changed the way I see almost every financial decision I make. So today I'm going to break down 5 of the most eye-opening lessons from that book. Let's get into it. Number 1. Luck and risk are more real than you think. Let's have an honest conversation. You have been told your whole life that hard work equals success. Show up, grind, stay consistent, and the results will come. And look, I'm not here to tell you effort doesn't matter. It does. But if we're being completely honest, effort alone doesn't explain the gap between who makes it and who doesn't. Here's a story that'll make you think. Bill Gates attended one of the only high schools in the entire United States that had a computer available to students back in the 1960s, a time when most people had never even seen a computer in person. That single circumstance, not a choice he made, not a skill he built, gave him a years-long head start over virtually every other ambitious kid in the country. His best friend and classmate Kent Evans was just as talented, just as driven, just as hungry for the future. But Kent died in a mountaineering accident before graduation. Same school, same ambitions, completely different outcomes, and not because one worked harder than the other. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. When we see someone successful, our brains want a clean story. He worked harder. She was smarter. They made better decisions. We do this because it's comforting. It means if we just copy the formula, we'll get the same result. But we almost always leave out the invisible pieces. The timing, the connections, the opportunities that showed up without being invited. Same thing on the other side. Jesse Livermore was considered one of the most brilliant stock traders who ever lived. He built and rebuilt fortunes multiple times. But when the Great Depression hit, it wiped him out completely. Was he suddenly bad at trading? No. The world changed in a way no strategy could survive. The lesson here isn't to sit back and wait for luck to find you. The lesson is to stop judging your own progress or someone else's failure purely on outcome. Success is never 100% skill. Failure is never 100% stupidity. What you can control is how you position yourself, how you respond to what happens, and whether you stay in the game long enough for the good breaks to find you. Number 2. Getting rich and staying rich are completely different sports. We love the story of the big win, the startup founder who turned nothing into billions, the investor who called the right move at the right time, the athlete who went from broke to buying a private jet. We love those stories. But here's what we conveniently skip over. A lot of those same people end up broke within a decade. Nicolas Cage made over $150 million. Gone. Mike Tyson, as we already covered. Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX, was worth $26 billion at one point. $26 billion. Then in 2022, the whole thing collapsed. Fraud, recklessness, a complete refusal to manage downside risk. And just like that, $26 billion became handcuffs. Here's the thing. The mindset that builds wealth is almost the opposite of the mindset that keeps it. To get wealthy, you have to take risks. You bet on yourself. You lean into uncertainty. You do what cautious people are too afraid to do. Jeff Bezos quit a comfortable Wall Street job to sell books online. Nobody thought that was smart. Elon Musk poured his entire PayPal payout into Tesla and nearly lost everything. Risk is the entry fee. But once the wealth is there, the game changes completely. Now, the job isn't to chase more. The job is to not blow what you have. And that requires a completely different set of traits. Humility, patience, the ability to say, I have enough. And that last one is rarer than any investment strategy. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion. But if you look at how he actually invests, it's not flashy. He doesn't chase trends. He doesn't leverage up to the ceiling. He invests in things he understands, and he holds them. His biggest advantage isn't his ability to find winners. It's his ability to survive long enough to let compounding do the work. There's a reason most lottery winners are broke within 5 years. They got the money with zero training on how to keep it. Because keeping money is a skill, and it's one that nobody teaches you. Number 3. Saving money isn't about stuff. It's about options. I already know what you're thinking. Here we go. Another guy telling me to skip the morning coffee and I'll retire a millionaire. Relax. That's not where this is going. Most people think about saving the wrong way. They treat it as delayed spending. I'll save so I can afford the vacation. I'll put money aside so I can upgrade my car next year. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it completely misses the deeper purpose of saving, which is this. Every dollar you save is a dollar of freedom. Think about someone you know who's stuck in a job they hate. And I mean genuinely stuck. Not, I complain, but I'm comfortable stuck. I mean they want to leave, but they physically cannot afford to. That's not a career problem. That's a savings problem. Because if that same person had 6 months of expenses sitting in a bank account, the entire situation would look different. Suddenly, they have options. They have time to find something better. They have the ability to say no. There's a term for this kind of savings. Some people call it a freedom fund. Others call it an FU fund. The name doesn't matter. What it means is having enough of a cushion that bad situations don't own you. Your landlord raises the rent. You have options. Your boss crosses a line. You have options. A health issue comes up out of nowhere. You have options. And here's the uncomfortable part. For most people in a stable income, the savings aren't there because saving isn't exciting. Spending gives you something immediate. A new purchase, a reaction from friends, a photo for social media. Saving gives you nothing you can show. No likes, no comments. Nobody cheers when you quietly move $500 to your emergency fund. But that invisible action is building the most valuable thing money can buy. And that thing isn't a product. It's peace of mind. Number 4. Real wealth is the stuff nobody sees. In 2014, when a janitor named Ronald Reed passed away at 92 years old, he shocked everyone around him. The man had worked at a gas station and later as a janitor for most of his life. He drove a beat-up car. He wore simple, patched-up clothes. By every visible measure, he was an ordinary man living an ordinary life. Then the will was read. Ronald Reed left behind $8 million. $8 million from a janitor's salary. Because Ronald Reed understood something that most high earners never figure out. Wealth isn't what you display. It's what you keep. Here's the trap most people fall into. We look at someone driving a brand new luxury car or wearing an expensive watch and we think, that person has money. But all we actually know is that they spent money. Those are very different things. The Ferrari in the driveway might be financed. The penthouse apartment might be bleeding the tenant dry. The designer wardrobe might be sitting next to a near-zero bank balance. We can't see any of that. We only see the surface. And because we see the surface, we want to match it. So we spend to signal status we haven't actually earned, to impress people who aren't thinking about us as much as we think they are. Using money we could be building with. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest human beings who has ever lived, still lives in the same house he purchased in 1958. Not because he can't afford something bigger, because he decided a long time ago that his net worth wasn't something he needed to prove to strangers. Wealth is the investments you haven't cashed out, the debt you didn't take on, the money that quietly compounded while everyone around you is busy showing off. Looking rich and being rich are two entirely different games. One is easy and anyone with a credit card can play. The other requires discipline that most people never develop. Number 5. The best financial plan is the one you can actually live with. Here's where most personal finance content completely loses the plot. Experts love to talk about money like it's a math problem. Maximize this percentage. Eliminate that expense. Follow this formula, and in 30 years, you'll have the number. Clean. Logical. Completely ignores the fact that you are a human being. We don't make financial decisions the way calculators do. We make them based on fear, hope, anxiety, pride, and panic. And ignoring that doesn't make those emotions disappear. It just means they'll catch you off guard at the worst possible moment. Imagine you've invested money in the stock market. The rational plan is to hold long-term, ignore the noise, and let the market recover from downturns. That's what the spreadsheet says. But then the market drops 40%. Your portfolio looks like a disaster. You're watching the number go down every single day. And suddenly, that rational plan turns into a genuine emotional experience. People sell. They lock in the loss. They tell themselves they'll reinvest when things calm down. And they usually don't. That's not stupidity. That's emotion. And emotion is real. This is the difference between being rational and being reasonable. Rational says this strategy produces the highest return over 50 years, so I'll commit to it no matter what. Reasonable says I know myself well enough to know I'll panic in a crash, so I'll keep a little cash on the side to stay calm and stay in the game. One is theoretically perfect. The other actually works. I have a friend who spent years obsessing over finding the perfect investment strategy, reading books, analyzing portfolios, comparing platforms. He never invested a single dollar because he couldn't decide what was optimal. Meanwhile, someone else I know just set up automatic contributions to a basic index fund and hasn't touched it since. That person is winning, not because their strategy was perfect, but because they executed a reasonable plan instead of endlessly chasing the perfect one. Warren Buffett does not have the highest theoretical return possible. He doesn't chase crypto. He doesn't bet on volatile growth stocks. He invests in a way that lets him sleep at night. And because he sleeps at night, he stays in the game. 60+ years and counting. The best financial strategy is not the one that maximizes your return on a spreadsheet. It's the one that you will actually follow when things get scary. Because a great plan you abandon is worth nothing, and a decent plan you stick to can change everything. All right, 5 lessons. We covered luck and risk. The difference between getting rich and staying rich. Saving for freedom, not just stuff. The invisible nature of real wealth. And why being reasonable beats being perfectly rational. But here's the thing about information. It only matters if you actually do something with it. So before you close this out, pick one thing. 1. Maybe it's starting an emergency fund. Maybe it's reconsidering a purchase you've been justifying. Maybe it's finally opening an investment account instead of researching it for another 6 months. Whatever it is, start today. Not when the timing is better. Not when you have more money. Today. Because the gap between knowing and doing is exactly where most people's financial lives get stuck. Don't let that be you.